Hello all and welcome back to another episode of the F124 Driver Career Mode. We are getting ready to head to round 4, which is taking place in Suzuka, Japan this week around. It looks like, at least according to the little preview, we've got dry weather qualifying and race upcoming, but we are looking to kind of continue our run of decent form. We scored a couple of points the last couple of races, but it's definitely going to be a tougher track overall. It's a higher downforce circuit, which against the AI, higher downforce tracks, they're a bit hit or miss, and Japan has also just typically not been my strongest track in all of history, but still very early on, and we'll take a look at the mail and everything in just a moment. We'll get ready to head on into the next sessions. Alrighty, so taking a look at the circuit, of course. It's Suzuka, classic track, and we'll have to take a peek and see what kind of weather we've got involved. But we have cleared all of our goals for the week as far as our specialists. R&D development have a couple of successes to close the gap up, but we are still rated the last place car on the grid. Engine components still seem to be all in pretty good position. I think by the next weekend we'll have to be starting to swap stuff off. So let's head to qualifying.
This is a circuit where sometimes you see something truly exceptional behind the wheel. We've seen it from Vettel, we've seen it from Verstappen. It is a remarkable place to watch a car at speed. Welcome to Suzuka. We're qualifying for the Japanese Grand Prix.
Okay, we seem to be having a few software issues at the moment. Sit tight for a few minutes while we reboot some things, okay?
So not an ideal start, having some couple minutes of delay, gets us kind of off sequence, but alas won't affect our normal run strategy, which is go out on a set of softs to start, and then go out as kind of last car on a second set of softs. Just do 2 runs in quality, so we have that kind of buffer of the middle. But here we are out for our first qualifying run. You see about 13 minutes left on the clock, whereas usually we're getting that first run in with about 16 minutes or so on the clock because we're out pretty quickly. But through the S's, and definitely an area where the currently still, as of time of the recording of this race, it was on the old handling model. I think China was the last. I'll have to double check. I think China was the last of the old handling model that I ran. Might have actually been the first of the new. But flicking through the Dunlop curves, and a very tricky one with no ABS. You can see that front left tire just loves to lock up as the track drops away through the hairpin there. We do have a McLaren kind of hounding us on the gearbox, a much faster car, much higher up the run order. But through Spoon Curve we go, keeping it nice and tidy. Could probably run out, carry a little more speed. We didn't quite run all the way out to the curving, but this is kind of the cider lap so far. Now up the hill, lots of need for power, and then into 130R. And it's a bit tricky around here battery usage wise, because you do kind of charge so much in the first sector. It's actually hard to get more battery back in the second half where you're deploying more. A little snap overs here coming out of the Casio triangle, and we've got reduced deployment because we're under 10%, but across the line of 30.232 puts us a little bit behind our teammate, about 0.6. But going back out for the second run, the final run of qualifying, we've dropped down to P18 behind the Cash Apps, ahead of an Alpine. But as usual, we are looking to try and beat our teammate in qualifying. As always, want to be ahead of Nico Hülkenberg, but qualifying is not my strongest suit, so if we come out behind him, we'll look to make up some ground in the race. A little wide through turn 1 and 2, but we kind of carry some exit speed because of it. Throw the car in a little bit more through the S's to try, but it's about even. Both tactics to get through there, and now trying to work our way through Dunlop, up this left-hander, getting brave on the throttle, way out on the curbing, having to be very cautious. You could lose it very easily on the curb in earlier games, taking a lot of Degner 1. A little over-braking in Degner 2, and actually some wheel spin getting out of the corners. Cost us a bit of time. So it's not the best lap we've ever done. A little bit of a lock-up into the hairpin as we'd expect. A little quicker on the way in, a little bit slower on the way out. So we do gain a little bit of time through the hairpin compared to our first qualifying run now through Spoon Curve, where we did have some time to gain. We do carry quite a bit more speed through the first part. Second part, run out a fair bit wider onto the curbing there. You can see we've now found just about 0.4 of a second. Hulkenberg, we've been pushed down to 20th. Hulkenberg up there, P16. We're just about even on him with him on the second sector split, but now into the Casio Triangle. Final run through this chicane. Try and find a little bit more time. We do get a decent exit, hug the inside, open that DRS, cross the line, and where will we go? It's going to be a P17, so we are going to come up just a little bit short of our teammates.
Qualifying complete. All that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
Interesting to see a lot of drivers with grid penalties. With Hamilton, yeah, we've got Bottas, Albon, all with grid penalties. We end up being just under a 10th behind our teammate, which is not a bad result, but does put us ahead of both of the Cash App RBs and the Alpine of Esteban Ocon.
We come to you today live from the Mai Prefecture in the south of Japan's Honshu Island for a race that has seen so many title deciders through the years, some simple, some controversial, but all contributing to a legacy that makes the Japanese Grand Prix an indispensable stop in any Formula One season. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. An immense lap from Fernando Alonso yesterday puts him on pole position. A very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Leclerc, Russell, Stroll, Perez, Norris, Hamilton, Joe, Sargent, Gasly, Hulkenberg, Bottas, Oldtimer, Ocon, Albon, Ricciardo, and Yuki Tsunoda. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? We welcome to the commentary box Anthony Davidson. I'm Alex Jakes. We're both looking forward to a really intriguing race today. Paddock chat earlier in the weekend that this driver had discussions with another team this week. How does that work from a driver's point of view?
Now, the good thing is for the driver that if you've potentially signed or had chats with a team that are going to further your career, that's all well and good. But the problem it immediately creates within your own team now is that potentially the team stop giving you inside information, and therefore you're not privy to that knowledge of where the car's going in terms of its future development.
You're going to have to push hard early on to give us any chance of a good result today.
Yep, so after messing around with the strategies, we end up going with the medium hard, just kind of standard strategy. Plenty of opportunities to lift and coast, so we're not too worried about fuel. But here we are starting 16th, just two spots behind our teammate. 5 red lights are up and out. Not a perfect reaction, but a slow release from Gasly in the Alpine. Big wheel spin, though, getting on the throttle has put us under pressure from Ocon, who has to back out. We do get the run past Gasly, so we're up into 15th. He's going to be around the outside of us. A little bit of contact nose to tail with our teammate, actually. And even a little bit of side-to-side with Gasly, but just kind of stuck, and it's going to leave kind of the inside for Gasly. But finally, we're able to sort out, get into the single-file line as the Kick Saubers are starting to work their way up ahead. And again, we're still at the early stages of the AI development where we need to try and keep this group together. And if the gaps start opening up, our maximum finish position will get far down the field rather quickly. So we managed to sort ourselves up into P15, just up behind our teammate Nico Hulkenberg. Logan Sargent in the Williams just ahead. We're going to have a big lunge up the inside of our teammate into the hairpin as the AI backs up. We're side by side, a little bit of a drag race coming out of the corner, but the AI in this year's game, very strong on traction out of low-speed corners, so he gets a very good run. We're going to hold nice and wide and tuck right back into the train, not fight our teammate too much further. We weren't going to have the drive necessarily to stay ahead of him. So coming up the hill, very important now. We have a straight line deficit, as we will probably at most tracks based on the way the AI is tuned. In the F1 games, we're going to be typically going to have to try and really make up the time in the corners, but burning a fair bit of battery in order to stay ahead of Pierre Gasly, and then right into the back end gearbox of Nico Hulkenberg. Of course, DRS will now be enabled next time through. Only the one DRS zone around Suzuka. And already you can see me making a quick adjustment on the MFD. I usually don't play around with front wing levels, but for this race I was really feeling a little sharp on the nose at the start of the race on the heavy fuel, and especially expecting the car just balanced too far forward. So reducing the front wing angle at the next pit stop should help out with my straight line speed a little bit as well, because I know that that's going to be a big issue coming through. And it felt like I had enough grip in the front end to navigate the S's, to navigate the Degner corners just fine. So a little in-race adjustment set up to be made, but otherwise we're just kind of holding station, seeing how the race develops. It looks like our race pace is not significantly better than our teammate, as it has tended to be a couple of times at the start. We're actually pretty much on par overall with our teammates' difficulty. Now, one choice that I've made in these career modes is while you can kind of do some time trial laps and establish different AI settings for different circuits, it's just not something that I want to go through all the effort for. I also want to kind of just keep the surprise going, and just kind of the natural progression of there are some tracks I'm better at, some tracks the AI is better at. But if it does start to become a significant margin, the only way I will go is up. And I do believe after the China race, I want to say, I moved the AI difficulty a couple more clicks up from 103 to 105. But starting lap 3, we're just nice and in a nice big train here. You can see it just stretches all the way up to the front. No real worry about losing the group in front of us, but very much going to be more of a settle in, maintain your laps, try and keep the tires alive kind of race. Likely not going to be an overtaking bonanza, especially with just the one DRS zone around this circuit. But it is going to be very important to stay connected to our teammate ahead of us. Even though he did pip us by about a tenth in qualifying, my goal is still, even if points not necessarily on the board, of course, I'd want points. I've gotten points in the last 2 races, and feels like I should. But based on qualifying and the early race pace stages, my goal is always just to get ahead of my teammate, and if points materialize, then we'll go for points. The car is still bottom of the performance charts, so trying to manage the expectations, try and grow with the car as much as I can, but still a nice cozy couple of laps to get settled in. You can see the fuel mix, even though it's hovering right around that 0 mark, so we're burning pretty much exactly on expected fuel targets, and I believe it's lap 12 that we should be looking to make our pit stop in this race. So a little ways to go, a little wiggle coming out as we get the power down. Loses us some ground to our teammate, and we have to make sure that Gasly in the Alpine is not going to press up behind us, but seem to be settled into a nice rhythm around a track that really rewards that sort of rhythm. Of course, in league racing, I've had some decent success around the Suzuka circuit before, especially at the end of 2 seasons ago, I want to say. But taking a break from the league racing stuff, it was just kind of, especially since I was broadcasting for the league I was in, taking up a little bit too much of my time. And I wanted to settle in and just get back to, well, busier with the job, busy with everything else. And the career mode's been a nice, especially the revamps to 24. I can say, speaking from the future, some of the changes, the updates to the handling model, the early first month or so patches have definitely improved it. Still not perfect. Still have some gripes that I'm working through, especially one of which you can kind of see on the screen now. You'll notice I'm in the hot lap mode for ERS deployment. You can really just kind of, around some tracks, especially Japan, where you're kind of lifting and coasting a lot through the first sector, you're getting a ton of recharge through there. Hot lap doesn't quite burn the battery like as much as you would expect. You can see as we're coming through the final couple of corners, the green bar that is my 1 lap allocation for battery usage, we probably used about 60%, and I'm even manually using more with overtake. So hot lap still needs a little bit of dialing in. It's nice. It's a little nice to be able to have access to it in the race, but I do wish it was tuned up a little better to be just like the quali in the 23, where it's consistently going to burn up pretty much your entire battery situation. We get our first new objective of the day, which is to get ahead of our teammate. Realistically, at this point, it's been a bit of a struggle behind him to try and manage, just kind of keep up with the gap. The dirty air, of course, plays a big factor. The way that they get out of some of these slower speed corners, definitely a factor. So it's going to be tough to try and get past our teammate, and especially as we're still kind of in this nice long DRS train. But yeah, as you can see, I've had it on hot lap for a few laps now, and realistically not really decreasing the battery usage at all over the course of this. A little wide through Spoon Curve, a little back end steps out a little bit. And I will give credit to the game, and this also continues into the later performance or handling patches, that you don't seem to die so immediately when you lose rear traction anymore. It's a little more measured. Big lockup into the Casio Triangle. Actually, a little bit of a cut of the corner. Somehow managed to not get a track limits warning there. Interesting. Must have just about kept on track, but that is a huge drop. So we're going to jump ahead now. Lap 7 of 27. You can see our teammate has managed to get ahead of Logan Sargent there. So he's swapped the positions, and by virtue of their battling, you can see now lots of clear track between them and the Kick Saubers. So we've dropped off that path, and it's going to be quite a lot to try and catch up to them now. So up into 130R, side by side goes Sargent and Hulkenberg down into the Casio Triangle. Little wiggles from them, but we're just kind of tucked up behind. Nico manages to maintain the position, but of course Logan is going to have DRS on Nico down into turn 1. So our rear wing flips open, as does everybody else in the train, all the way back to the RBs. Sargent to the outside, Nico to the inside, side by side through turn 1 they go. We are just kind of looking to pick our way through if the opportunity presents itself. Of course, we're still carrying that objective to try and overtake our teammate, but look at how slow they go side by side through the S's, and really no open door just yet in this one. So the long right-hander getting set up. It's going to force our teammate out wide. We're going to tuck to the inside. We've actually got a pretty good run, so we're going to burn some battery, get to the inside of Nico, get ahead, and we're actually going to clear him, breaking into the first Degner. So through we go, up into P14 ahead of our teammate, and now we have the Williams of Logan Sargent out ahead of us. And at this point, I'm thinking, based on the pace we've been showing, points are pretty much off the board unless there's a safety car to close the gap up, making up 5.5 seconds on a train that is being pulled along by the faster cars. Interestingly enough, though, looking at the track map, and I didn't even notice this at the time, there was, for a second there, a green dot of an Aston Martin leading the race. So things are getting interesting amongst that pack, but we are closing up to the back of Logan Sargent into 130R. A good run, but not going to have quite the lunge to get up the inside of the chicane, but we should be able to set ourselves up for a pretty substantial exit. He's got a decent exit as well, but we are going to have the DRS, so rear wing open, battery on full deployment, headed down the pit straight in the slipstream. We're going to pull to the outside. He's going to hold the inside, and we're just going to sweep around the outside, leave the space for him on the apex of turn 1, cut across the nose to close him off on the apex of turn 2, and through we go and up into P13. However, this does put us very much at risk, because we're just now the tip of the spear of this DRS train, and you can see we've already lost about half a second to Bottas since the start of sector 3 of the last lap.
So gap to the car ahead, 6.2 seconds.
It's really going to be all about maximizing results here, stay ahead of our teammate, make sure we have a good pit stop window, and make sure we're in a good position to go to the end of the race. Still a few laps left to go before we hit our pit window. Lap 12 was our target. Of course, we're ready to react to any safety cars should they occur, but at this stage with the patch, they still had the career mode issue where drivers were not making mistakes, not triggering any safety car situations. So at this point, I expect that the race would go to the end just normally, so we're looking to just do our normal pit window. You can see Logan Sargent very close to the back of us through 130R, has a very good run. We tried to burn some battery through the middle part of the lap to grow the gap, but I just don't have that kind of pace advantage against the AI around here. And so you can see Logan Sargent's going to be very much on our gearbox when it comes down the pit straight. I'm moving to the inside just to kind of give him the racing line so I can tuck right back into the slipstream. Our teammate having a bit of a look, though, as he closes with his own DRS, but by slotting back into the line, we're able to pick up a little bit of a toe into the last portion into turn 1, gain a little bit of straight line speed to hold our teammate off, and we are back down into 14th, but in a nice little stalking position when it comes to being behind the Williams ahead of us. My thoughts at this point are realistically, after overtaking Sargent and not being able to clear a 1 second gap to him, realistically I'm thinking, all right, let's just go ahead, save some battery, get ready. A big rear lockup though on the way into Degner 2, and back end gets very loose. So we've lost a fair bit of time to Logan Sargent, a little front lockup on the way into the hairpin. And now you see 9.9 seconds, so we're gonna burn a ton of battery to make sure we stay within DRS. If we lose DRS to Sargent, I don't think I have the pace necessarily in clean air to stay with him. A little wide through spoon curves, but we're carrying a little more downforce than the AI, so we do carry good speed compared to them through spoon curve. And now up towards 130R, and we're in a nice little 0.6 of a second. And I was experimenting around here, just kind of revving up the 7th gear through up the hill through 130R without any kind of slipstream. We are kind of burning less fuel than expected, so I was trying to see if that would help bring down the fuel margins. It also seems to just let the car carry some decent speed on the exit. I don't know that's hugely different, but here comes our teammate having a little look to the inside on us. Again, just going to shut the door, not let him through. He wasn't quite alongside enough because we did have our own DRS to help out with, but not going to let him get involved in that one at this stage, and it's just going to be continuing to maintain this little pocket of existence behind the Williams. You can see now the gap to Valtteri Bottas, 7.4 seconds. So we're losing almost, 6-7 tenths a lap to that group because he is attached. Although it looks like now that dot, that second green dot on the mini-map, has kind of lost touch with the main train. So we'll see if he starts to fall back towards us. We're going to jump ahead now just a little bit. Lap 12, so one lap further on. We have gotten the call to come into the pits. We've also gotten a call from our team to let Hulkenberg pass, which, fine. Who cares? We're going to be pitting very wide through Spurn, spoon curve. I don't know why that turned into Spurn. But we're very wide through there. Going to go ahead and not worry about the objective because we are pitting in this lap. We're going to see what Sargent does. Are we going to be in a position to undercut if he stays out? Little front right lockup using the last little bit of the tires. And no, he's going to stay out. So we are going to peel on into the pit lane. Get hard on the brakes, make sure we're safe on the entry.
But thanks for doing that. Let's now get your head down and get to the end of this race the best way we can.
And we get kudos from the team for letting our teammate through because, well, of course we did. We're coming into the pits. So into the pit lane we go, over the bumps. Tires off, tires on. A good clean 2.4 second stop for us.
That was a fantastic stop, faster than we were expecting.
And we've got Sonoda Ocon behind. But we are going to come out into some nice, clean air. It does look like Bottas also took the pit stop opportunity, and Leclerc actually down at 15. Something interesting must have happened to the Ferrari there. But now we're out to hammer in a good lap. Of course, try and get these tires up to temperature as they do warm up a lot slower in this year's game, especially the hard compound than it did in last year. So being a little tentative through the S's, it's very tricky. And of course, another bit of complaint that still exists is the AI basically gets to come out of the pits and their tires' temperatures are not really simulated, so they're just out of the pits and typically are going to run away from you at the first time of asking until your tires are up to temperature. And taking a look at the mini-map, looks like a lot of the lead pack indeed coming in to make their stop on lap 13 of 27. We went that one lap earlier for that undercut opportunity. We're, of course, going to be well back of that group as they had a good 15-20 seconds on us already. But our teammate now on his way into the pit lane, so headed up to 130R using a fair bit of battery and, of course, in the hot lap mode to turn in the best lap that we can on this outlap, braking nice and late into the Casio triangle. A little bit of oversteer on the first corner on the right-hander, but looks like cars are indeed just starting to get rolling out of the pit lane. We'll see where they end up coming out, and they're just hitting the limiter line, and we have actually cleared them by a fair margin. By the time they get up to speed, we should have a few seconds worth of gap when we were just right at the front of that line before. Now we're going to have a couple of seconds worth of buffer. Looks like about 2.6 is the margin that we're looking at, but 6.6 to Bottas, so we did undercut and close a little bit on him, but it's not really going to be enough to, unless he's particularly bad on the hard compound tire, highly likely that that's going to be quite the achievement to try and overcome based on our lap times in the first stint. If we were making some gains in the first stint, maybe there would be an opportunity to push real hard and close up to him, which still am trying to do. But realistically, my thought is more on bringing the car home, staying, well, at least ahead enough of this group behind that they don't start getting DRS on me. As soon as they start getting DRS, they will be closing right up to the back of me pretty quickly. So it's very important over the final stint to just keep the battery in a good spot, keep using it as we've got it, maintain as much of a gap as we can. But realistically, probably going to be a fairly quiet rest of this Japanese Grand Prix, as we do have several seconds either side of us. We realistically can't even necessarily see the car ahead. So jumping ahead, as I say, lap 25 of 27, basically the entire second stint we're skipping over because nothing happened. You can see Bottas grew his gap to 10.5, so he was plenty fine on the tires. We did a 32.4 on our last lap, so we're maintaining pretty good lap times compared to our best. Very consistent run. And we have still about 2.5 seconds or so to the cars behind. So we've managed to maintain that nice gap. Of course, we're starting to be into bring it home safely kind of mode. So I'm sure that gap will reduce over the penultimate lap here, but we'll just take a nice casual tour of Suzuka. The Ferris wheel in the background, some nice overhead shots into the quick flick right-hander of Degner 1, and then on the brakes, Degner 2. It's so easy to lock the rears into that one. Was a very tricky one, and of course, the extremely bumpy braking zone into the hairpin. So easy to get the front left tire locked up as the track cambers down and away. But all in all, a very kind of pedestrian, professional drive. Made a couple of places up. I would say probably once the initial trains sorted out, maximized what we could do based on our pace against the opponents. And this was a track where the AI was probably just a little bit better than me on it. And like I said earlier, I'm not going to go dial in to into every single track the AI difficulty. And, we're still outperforming sort of our car performance, although it's nip and tuck amongst the bottom 4 teams that are in this kind of last train. Ourselves, Alpine, RB, and Williams. Sauber seems to be in a decent spot with this initial update. We will see if because there's a patch, I can't remember which race it was, but the patch that updated the car performance standings was applied to career modes as well. So we do get in a couple of races a little bit of an upgrade to our car performance compared to our opponents. But, I mean, it's still very much kept us in the bottom echelons of the group, even with the upgrades that we've had coming, which so far this season, I mean, we're 4 races in. It's been tough on the upgrade front. Most upgrades have failed first time of asking. We've had to do redevelopment. So car development, rather slow going at this stage of the season. Hopefully, once we get some of those optional, what are they called, specialists, once we start getting them ranked up, that should help with our success chances on the developments. But yeah, so far, the first 4 races, developments have been rough, and we have our first different winner of the season. Carlos Sainz finally breaking Verstappen's win streak. He's going to cross the line first, and it looks like an interesting podium potentially. I see a green dot in there, maybe a Red Bull of Verstappen, but we're working our way through the final couple of corners. 3.1 seconds of margin. Big lockup on the front right into the Casio triangle, but No harm, no foul. We just drag the tire across the tarmac. And across the line we go for a nice P13 finish.
All right, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
Another action-packed Japanese Grand Prix comes to an end then, and a magnificent drive to take the win today.
To overcome the difficult circumstances they face throughout this race today, it's not easy, and it really shows a lot of maturity, and you can use this, you can draw on this as a driver moving forward and boost your confidence through the rest of the championship.
Looking at the podium, you can see that red suit, familiar to fans across the globe. A world-class win for a world-class team. Ferrari, do it again. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for the next one.
Fernando Alonso from pole to the podium position. Pretty good result for the Aston Martin team. P6 for Lance Stroll, so they look to be in a pretty good spot. Just not sure what happened to Charles Leclerc. From P5 down to P10, struggled quite a lot. We stay on 4 points, so no gain, nothing gained or lost as Bottas was also out of the points. But we still have a decent spot in the points positions or in the standings and constructors as well. And we, with our result, gain another rating point. So up to 68 overall with our goal. Of course, our preseason contract goal being a 70 overall rating. So we're well on the way, making some good moves. We've gotten to 47, 53 with our teammates. So we're starting to work our way towards having a little bit more influence in the team and have a little more say in the developments, a little more R&D points. The consultants and specialists, looks like we've got a good fair bit of movement on them as well. But back at the home screen, time to get ready. You can see cable assembly, beam wing. We got some upgrades potentially on the way. Let's hit our specialists first and select. So manufacturing expert, 3 laps with 2 engine components, easy. Definitely going to be simple. Wind tunnel engineer. So we're headed to where? I didn't even look. I believe we're headed to China. I don't know. My brain has stopped working. But we're going to try and stay over 170 miles an hour. Finish better than our teammate, of course, is our goal every single week. So may as well put some money on it and pursue fewer than or complete 5 laps without penalties or warnings. I think that's better. There's a possibility of getting a penalty. But so we're pretty set up there. Take a look at some of the just the accolades as we're starting to finally make a little bit of movement slowly, but a couple top 10 finishes. We are leading our teammate rivalry. No other active rivalries at the moment. And this is my first time actually looking into the rivalry menu, but you can see kind of how it compares. 4 versus 1 categories tied on another with podium finishes. So that's how it kind of keeps it. Points, quality results, highest quality, best finish, and race results. We're 4-0 on race results, and actually, surprisingly, 3-1 in the quality department. So pretty good there. Let's take a look at what developments we have available to us. Just a little shy on points in the engine upgrade. We can get this turbo materials upgrade involved, which we will need some durability based on where our cars are. A few in the pipeline that we can hopefully get successes on. So let's move forward. Cable assembly, fingers crossed. Failure. Another development failure, and even beam wing and ICE material. So 3 failures. An entire upgrade package has failed ahead of a sprint race weekend in Shanghai. And of course, we've spent those points already, so we're going to have to wait until after the weekend, I believe, in order to afford any of those redevelopments. So we're going to take a look and just see Maybe on the off chance we can afford one. I think it's gonna be too expensive. Yeah, $220 for the rear wing upgrade. Cable assembly $210, and then I believe last one was durability $210. So we're just shy of having the R&D points we need to re-trigger those developments. So they're gonna have to wait till next week, and they're gonna be even delayed further. But a sprint race weekend, first one of the season, coming up at the Shanghai circuit next time by. So thank you all for joining me once again. Hope you guys will see me next time. Take it easy. Peace.